Hey, wonderful humans, and welcome back to the Art of Chronically. So, today I wanted to talk to everyone about, I guess, expectation of self. I don't know a better way to explain it, I guess, than really just the expectations that we put on ourselves as a community. And my opinion, this isn't really an advice or tips or tricks, but more just this is something that I'm really working on myself right now, and I wanted to talk through it with you all and share kind of my personal experience in the hopes that it might help you. So again, with that, I don't have notes. I don't have a full plan. I am dealing with some mega fibro fog. So if I seem to lose a point, forgive me. I'm in this place right now where I'm trying to give myself permission to be less perfectionist planny and to just be. And I wanted to talk to you guys today, so here I am. For better or for worse, let's hope it works out. But anyway, I want to talk about just sort of the way that we view our situation, because I have been viewing mine in a pretty bummer way, I guess, not in a way that I'm not very proud of, but I'm very grateful because over the last few days as I've been talking to Lee about my experience, he's really helped me shift my perspective on what's happening and my reality, and about kind of basically just who I am and what I should expect for myself, which is a pretty huge statement, so much gratitude to him. But I have been having the most significant feeling that I've been feeling is that of a sense of being a failure, or of not being enough, of really lacking any tangible evidence of being a person of value, because I don't have a traditional job, and I've really struggled the last several years to have one. I've tried to get multiple jobs, and I've lost multiple jobs, and it's been something. Okay, come sit with me. Sorry, cat. It's been something that I've really struggled with, and there's just like so many different things. I could go on forever about all the things that I have been struggling and feeling sort of like a failure about. And I think it's a pretty common feeling in the chronic illness community, because we just don't have the same resources that an average person does. But I feel like there's an expectation for us to still have the same type of life. And I keep thinking of an analogy that my immunologist likes to use, which is when like looking at my lab work and stuff, he'll sometimes say, if you were an average woman your age, I would not really be too concerned about these numbers or whatnot. But you're not an average woman your age. Comparing you to an average person is like comparing an apple to a tree. So I really am holding on to that metaphor right now, because it's so true. And it's not just in the sense of like what our white blood cell count should be, but like it is, that's 100% a thing. But it's also about our experience, because if my body, my vessel, and the way in which I experience this world is so significantly different from the average person's, that my doctor, who's known me for like 5 years, says comparing you to the average person is like comparing an apple to a tree. That's pretty significant. So my vessel is that different from everyone else's. Then why do I expect that my experience of life and my possibilities are going to be the same as everybody else's? It just doesn't make sense, right? So what Lee helped me realize is I was really struggling with this sense of failure, and he told me, you know, that in all of these situations where I was listing off that I had failed, he's like, you didn't fail. I watched you in this situation. It didn't work out in your favor, but you didn't fail. You put your everything into it. You gave it all of your energy and effort, but sorry about the cat. He's apparently needs attention. I gave it all of my effort, but it still didn't work. And he's like, more than anything, that means that as a society, or those specific employers, or the people that weren't able to meet you halfway when you were showing up with your version of 100%, that's where the failure was. That's where everything fell apart. And that's what is important to remember and recognize in this situation, is that if you feel like you're a failure, if you feel like you keep just not being able to keep up with your peers or with what is expected of you, it's because your reality is different. And I know that I'm sort of rambling this point, and bear with me, because I'm still sort of processing it and digesting it in my own brain. So that's where the clarity, so please, forgiveness is appreciated. But this is something that is so huge to me, because, okay, so here we are, and I've been wasting all these years of my life feeling like a total failure because I can't be a tree. And I'm going to just use that analogy. So if I'm referring to someone who has chronic illness, I'm going to call, or chronic illness, chronic pain, disability, anything like that, you're an apple, okay? I'm an apple, you're an apple. I want to be a red delicious. You can be whatever apple you want, but you're an apple. Anyone who lives without the limitations of that is a tree, okay? That's just for the sake of clarity, apple tree. Apple versus tree, okay? Not an apple tree. Oh my God, I'm really gonna spin myself. So these apples, and in our world, there's a very large amount of these like beautiful shiny apples that are ready to, you know, be apples to their best abilities, but everyone's expecting them to be trees. They're expecting us to be able to do the exact same things that a tree can do, but an apple can't grow a really strong branch to hold a swing. We can't do that. That's just not something we can physically do. So it's not fair to expect that. And as I realized that in every single one of the situations where I was saying, I'm a failure, the place where it fell apart is that I was expected to be a tree, or the situation didn't know how to accommodate for me not to be. So I'm not saying that every person who I've ever worked with has been a total jerk. That's far from what I'm saying. People have bent over backwards to try to accommodate me. I have been very lucky. People have worked really hard to try to help me. But the unfortunate situation is that in our society, there's only so much that they can do, because the way that our culture runs is you need to be a tree and you need to be able to do these exact things. And if you can't do them, then you just can't, then you just don't get to play. You're not invited to the forest. And in my mind, I felt like such a failure, and I couldn't see a way out of it because I had tried every angle. I've tried, you know, I've tried everything I could think of, and I wasn't feeling this shift in my life. I wasn't feeling successful. I still felt like a complete and total failure. And I really do try in life. I really do show up. I'm intentional about the way in which I live my life. So it was a real bummer feeling to be like, how am I, like, how do I break this cycle of failure? how do I do this? Like what's happening? And once I realized that I'm not the one that's failing, it's just easier for me to be the scapegoat or whatnot for every time a situation has fallen apart. If I'm the common denominator in every single one of those situations, then let's blame me. It's a lot easier to just be like, well, she's not smart enough, she's lazy, she's this, she's that, she's bad at communicating, she's who knows what. I mean, these are just assumptions. I don't know what former employers have said about me. And again, I'm not trash talking any former employer. They've all truly done everything they can, and I feel like that's a very important part of this point, is that the people that I have worked for and worked with have really tried to accommodate me, but for some reason it just doesn't work because I'm just too different, that no matter how hard we try, I just can't be that. So shifting this mentality of being not from saying like, okay, I'm a failure, realizing that in each situation I was not in fact failing, I was actually crushing it for what I'm capable of. Like, I was putting my everything towards it. But the unfortunate reality is I'm an apple in a world full of trees. And so that's where I'm at now. And I really don't have some like magical aha TED Talky vibe moment. All I have to say is like, oh my God, I finally figured out that I'm an apple. Which actually is a huge relief because I can stop trying to compare myself to the trees. I mean, it feels so liberating for me to finally say, like, the reason that all of these attempts have failed isn't me. And to shift that perspective and to see the successes that I have had. Even if on paper it looks like a bunch of failures, they're not, because I mean, if you break it down, it's the effort that I put into it, it's the things that I've learned, it's the perseverance, it's all those different things that got me to here. And yeah, maybe I don't have what would be generally considered something to show for it, but I don't have the life of a tree. I have the life of an apple. And so my success looks very different. My victories look very different. Me being able to show an accomplishment looks very different. It may not look like anything. It might just be that in my body I feel different. And no one can see it, no one will notice, but I notice. And that's kind of the great thing about my situation and about our situation. If you're also someone who lives with chronic illness, if you're part of my beautiful apple bunch, there's no point in comparing ourselves to the trees. Like, we're not trees. We get to just like hang out and be apples together. And I'm not hating on trees. I'm not throwing them shit. They're great. I love you. You're beautiful. You grow tall and give us oxygen and all that. But I'm so sick of comparing myself to them and expecting to be them, or thinking that I can adapt my way into that, when it's like, oh my gosh, you can't. And your vessel is not that vessel. Your experience is not that experience. And like, once I shifted my perspective to understand that, I don't feel like a failure anymore. I feel like I can keep going in a different way. And I'm ready to start thinking creatively about how, as an apple, how can I move forward? How can I create a life that I want? How can I define my own version of success and my own version of a career and of all these things? Because I am young and I do have a long, hopefully, if I'm blessed, I have a long future ahead of me. but I'm always going to have this body, and I'm always going to have the challenges that come with it. So instead of being sad or angry or feeling like I failed because something else is unable to accommodate for me, now I'm in that process of learning how to kind of accommodate the world for myself, because really only I know what I need. Um, and 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 I'm accepting the reality that I am an apple. And as much as I have wanted to and tried to and pushed myself until breaking point of more times than I care to admit, I'm never going to be a tree. And it feels really good to accept that and to just stop trying. Because it doesn't mean that I'm giving up on being well. It doesn't mean that I'm giving up on having a good life. It actually makes me feel like I am more motivated, because I'm not trying to have what looks like a good, healthy, successful, whatever life for someone who has literally none of the same limitations that I have. I'm trying to have the best life possible for somebody within my limitations. So that's what I'm like, that's what's bouncing around in my brain bucket right now, along with a million other things, because hey, anxiety is a busy, busy beast. But yeah, y'all, that's what I've got. And I know that that's just like crazy rambly and whatever, but we're not failures. We are not failures because because we're different. That's ridiculous, and I refuse to continue to feel that way, and I don't want anyone in my community to feel that way. You are not a failure. You are not a failure. If you are struggling to keep a job, you're not a failure. If you're struggling to lose weight, you're not a failure. If you're struggling to get your symptoms under control, you're not a failure. Like, none of this is your fault. You're just different, and that's okay. But we're still learning as a society how to deal with this version of different. So be compassionate with yourself and be kind to yourself and love yourself with everything you can, because you're a beautiful shining apple and they're good for you. And yeah, that's like all I have, but I just don't want anyone to feel that sense of just failure and sadness and darkness, because you don't need to. Stop comparing yourself to people who don't have the same challenges that you do. It's a waste of time, and you're just drinking poison. That comparison, you're just poisoning yourself, and don't do that. Your life is hard enough, and you're amazing, and you're wonderful, so that's it. I'm gonna just see what happens when I try to be a really great apple and let go of my dreams of a tree. I think it's gonna be good. I don't know. I literally have no idea. Everything got flipped upside down in my reality, y'all, so who knows? But I'm excited, and I'm so grateful to my sweet lovely for giving me that perspective and shifting the way that I was seeing those situations, so that I can start to unpack this and do this work. And I hope that this is something that you all can relate to and understand, and start to shift your own perspective, because you're not broken, you're not damaged, you are perfect exactly how you are, and you don't have to have the life that everyone else has. Your life doesn't have to look like what you see out there, what your friends' lives look like, whatever. It doesn't have to look like the life of someone who doesn't have your challenges. It shouldn't look that way, but that doesn't mean it can't still be amazing. So wishing you a wonderful, beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm going to do my best to keep checking in. Please forgive me in advance for the sporadicness of it. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the video, but I have 2 surgeries coming up. They're both very minor day surgeries, but those combined with some other like medical stuff, I'm going to be kind of focusing on me more so and my wellness, but I want to keep connected with you all for sure, so I will keep checking in as much as possible. So love you all so much. You're amazing, and have the best day.